If you were trapped on a desert island and could only watch the same 5 shows for the rest of your life, what would you choose? After careful consideration, I have my answers. The conditions of this hypothetical situation are that you have all the proper technology and sustenance to survive, and your concern is how to obtain the maximum amount of entertainment and for the longest amount of time. Now, before I get into my answers, I do want to make it known that I am indeed aware of how ridiculous this sounds, and I wanted to do it for fun. I don't know why, but I think of this hypothetical question sometimes when I'm on the train, going to work, or I'm walking to the gym, or something. Or maybe it's my brain's weird way of ranking and organizing the massive amount of shows I've seen, so I prioritize the best ones. I don't know, but this is a list. It's also basically kind of like my favorite top 5 shows, and there will be some honorable mentions, so hopefully you guys, at the very least, get to add some shows to your watch lists. Anyways, who gives a shit? Let's get into the weeds. Starting from the bottom of the list is number 5. Now, number 5 had to fight tooth and nail to make it onto the list since it is at the bottom and it is the least essential. There are a lot of other shows that could have ended up at this spot. I actually already picked the top 4 shows before I was able to decide on the 5th spot. To be completely honest, I'm not even sure this is the right choice. I might get to that island and realize what a terrible mistake I've made. I might find myself absolutely yearning for a different show. I might even miss a show that just lost this spot so much that I might just let my body get washed away into the current. Let myself get eaten by piranhas or sharks or something. Who knows? Maybe a giant squid will do me the favor and drag me down to Bikini Bottom. But my number 5 pick is Peaky fucking Blinders! I actually remember the night I started watching this show. I was in bed with my girlfriend looking for a new show, and we've been hearing all the hoopla surrounding the show and all the attention it's been getting, and decided, let's join the masses. We gave it a chance, and after the first episode, we were like, that was amazing. And despite having to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning the next day for work, we stayed up way longer than I should have, binge watching the rest of season 1. Thomas Shelby is just that guy. He's the man. He's one of those characters that's like a living legend. He's one of those characters you kind of want to be like in real life. Bonafide badass. Most of the episodes are so dramatic and impactful, they feel like the finale. I can't remember how many episodes we watched, and when it was over, we were like, what? That wasn't the finale? These are all the markings of a great series. Addicting storyline, drama that doesn't exist in the mundane world, and characters that are memorable and deep. The only drawback are that the seasons are very short. Each season has 6 episodes, which may backfire on me when I end up watching the show like 8 times in the first year of me being stranded. Number 4. Number 4 is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Out of all the shows on this list, this is the one I saw first. I saw the show as a little boy on Nickelodeon. I actually remember having to miss the finale of the entire show when it aired. I was very upset about it at the time, but thank God they reran it like the next day. Avatar is an easy watch. It oftentimes makes you feel good. It makes you laugh, and I assume that's something we're gonna desperately need on a desert freaking island. I'm sure it's gonna be depressing, lonely, and isolating. So some funny soccer jokes will be like medicine. Overall, this show is simply one of the greatest shows ever made, and I personally get so much rewatchability out of it. Plus, I think the show encourages self-reflection and puts forward some life philosophies. Some may think that's a stretch for a kid's show, but I argue that this is deliberately made for kids and adults equally, especially when you make it out of season 1. The mental stimulation the show provides and the moral compass that exists within the world, I think, are standouts and crucial for being stranded. This single-handedly might not just keep our heads on, but it might also help us keep them on straight. Number 3! Number 3. This, my friends, ladies, and gentlemen, is the big one. The big boy. The giant. In my 3rd spot is an absolute juggernaut of a show. Imagine being stranded on a fucking island, fighting to survive, day and night, and yet you have the luxury of watching, undoubtedly, without a question, the greatest show ever created, Breaking Bad. I don't think this is the greatest show ever. It is the greatest show ever. That's a cold fact. The only shows that might even come close are The Wire and The Sopranos. But nobody has ever done drama like this one. The shocking deaths, The complex, multi-layered, and ever-changing relationships between characters, the greatest dialogue ever written, and a performance that ends up on the short list of the greatest acting of all time. Bryan Cranston's portrayal of Walter White. I could actually do an entire video essay on this show if you guys are interested. But if I was barely alive, starving, alone, dehydrated, and depressed, and I just watched the Face Off episode, or Ozymandias, or however the fuck you pronounce it, I would be ready to run through a brick wall. Love that show. Number two. Number two, when I was coming up with this list, number one was cemented from the get-go. So number two is where I had to start thinking. I'm thinking about the heat, the humidity, how the sand feels between my toes, and how I would climb a tree to get a coconut, because that's when you do when you're stranded. Everybody knows that. Come on. I've seen Lone Survivor and Lost, so I'm pretty much an expert on outdoor survival. When your airplane goes down or your ship washes up on the shore, you gotta start climbing trees, cracking coconuts, right? Right. So after putting myself into the right mindset, I decided that I would need laughter. Comedy really is like the best medicine, and I ain't no scientist, but I'm pretty sure laughing cures depression or some shit. And considering how upset I would be to get stranded on a desert island, I would appreciate a pick-me-up. What show picks me up when I'm in the worst mood? Maybe I had a bad day at work. Maybe I embarrassed myself. Or I got into an argument with someone I care about. Or maybe I'm just hungover as shit. What's my go-to show? Well, it's The Office, baby. This show is lightning in a bottle. I almost went with Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Friends, which, by the way, fuck the people who think Friends isn't funny. You're a psycho. And for those that haven't seen Always Sunny in Philadelphia, get your shit together. And now. But yes, The Office. I could go on and on about this show. I could be hanging out with a stranger with weird hair and boogers coming out of his nose, and I could still talk about this show with you for hours. Even thinking about this show right now makes me laugh. If I was sitting on a bench in Yugoslavia, I could think about Michael Scott transforming into Prison Mike and begin laughing. Some of the best on-screen jokes ever. And remember that short list of the greatest acting performances I mentioned in the Breaking Bad chapter? Well, Steve Carell is on that list for his portrayal of Michael Scott. Yes, I know it's comedy, and maybe he didn't have to dive into his character as deep as Heath Ledger did when playing the Joker, or Daniel Day-Lewis when he played Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood, but comedy is very difficult as well. They're two completely different styles. Steve Carell was born to play Michael Scott. It's truly one of those characters that no one on planet Earth could have played as good as Steve Carell. Not to mention there's 9 seasons, and I could add some length to this list because we will be watching these shows for just the rest of our entire lives. God, I love The Office. Alright, it's time. This is it, guys. The final pick. Right before I say what it is, I want to give some respect to the great shows that I left behind. The ones I won't be taking on the island. The runner-ups. Planet Earth 1 or 2, but it doesn't really matter. I figured I'm getting enough outdoors already. Chernobyl. It's just too short. Rick and Morty. It has some bad seasons at the end, and I already have similar shows that give me what I would want out of this. Attack on Titan. Also got shows that do its job. Firefly. Also too short, and it never ended the story, which would drive me into madness not knowing what happened. Invincible. It's not done yet, and I believe other shows on this list do it better. 1883 or 89 or whatever it is, the Yellowstone spinoff. It's in the same boat as Chernobyl. It's just too short. It's one season. Game of Thrones. Okay. Literally the worst final season I have ever seen. Maybe the worst fall off in the creative industry ever, except for maybe Marvel. But seasons 1 through 4 are just perfect. Perfect. Vikings. Vikings was a hair away from taking Peaky Blinders' spot. Both shows accomplish what I would want from them if I was on an island. Only Vikings has a rough few moments during the last 2 seasons. Also, shout out to Travis Fimmell's portrayal of Ragnar Lothbrok, one of my favorite fictional characters. On a different day, or even maybe next week, this would be the 5th spot. So, number 2. Drum roll, please. Naruto. This is my favorite show of all time. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, if you don't like anime, I would argue it's because you haven't seen a good anime. Most people steer clear of anime because they think it's weird or they think they'll get made fun of for watching it, but you're missing out on a massive genre of this art form that we call shows or series. Just like any genre of shows or movies or series or whatever, there's fantastic examples and utterly pathetic attempts of making something worth any value. Most people who look down on anime have never even seen an anime. It would be like, or they even saw a bad anime. It would be like saying you don't like comedy movies because you saw Jack and Jill. Well, Naruto falls into the anime genre. And even though Naruto is my favorite show, I am aware and know that it is not certainly the greatest show ever, objectively speaking. When it comes to analyzing the technical side of these shows, Breaking Bad is king, and that's why it's at my number 3 spot. Naruto isn't even objectively the greatest anime, but it is my favorite show across every genre, which means it brings me the most satisfaction when I watch it. It hits all the right buttons. Most of the show's shortcomings are charming, and the best aspects of the show make up for the overabundance of filler episodes, the insane repetition of flashbacks, and the plot holes within the last story arc. However, the best aspects of this show can keep you entertained for years. Literally, there are like 700 episodes if you include filler episodes, which if you're on a deserted island in the middle of the fucking ocean, the filler episodes actually are a plus. This show is action packed. Some of the best, well thought out fight scenes I've ever seen on screen. Complex characters that are fleshed out over the course of hundreds of episodes. Death, friendships, politics, betrayal, ideologies, plot twists, and lots of emotion. This show always pulls on my goddamn heartstrings. Sometimes my eyes sweat a little when I'm watching Naruto finally overcome an obstacle I just watched him struggle with for countless episodes. This show also has this level of progression that's integrated perfectly as you watch it. Your knowledge of the world increases. The characters get stronger and wiser. As you watch, you feel like you're progressing more and more. It almost feels like a video game when you level up. Most importantly, in the boundaries of this hypothetical question, this situation, this is possibly the best pick, considering it has such a big bang for its buck. Another great pick would be One Piece or The Simpsons, considering the colossal amount of episodes. But I just know those shows wouldn't give me the feels that Naruto gives me. Plus, I would have a lot of time to really nail down that ninja sprint that everyone knows. So, guys, that's my list. Comment down below your picks, and thanks for watching. Consider checking out the channel if you liked what you saw here.